Welcome everyone to the Chronologically Gaming pre-show, where you can ask all your questions and maybe get some of the answers. We are finally in December 1982, playing all the video games released in chronological order. Everything on consoles, handhelds, computers, all arcade games, but not just in North America. I have an American accent, but we play video games everywhere. Howdy, Brad. I saw that you showed up late, but I didn't catch it when we did the live stream because I got a script to follow. At least loosely follow a script. We have an agenda here on Chronologically Gaming. This isn't like just Twitch gaming. We have a show we're doing here. Oh yeah, Marshall, you mean the actual physical systems that I still have? Yeah, I still have my NES. I do not have my VCS. I don't have my 2600. I still have a Super NES. I still have an N64. I still have a old IBM PC. I still have a really old CRT television. So when I want to play these games, I can use the old CRT. I have a PlayStation 2, I think, still. I have a Sega Genesis still. I have what are the other systems I have? They're currently not behind me. I used to have my little museum right behind me on the show. In fact, I was going to have that as the backdrop, and then moving happens and lots of other stuff. So, yeah, Charlie, no, I do not have any physical 8-bit computers anymore. Not anymore. I have to do all my 8-bit computing emulatedly. And every now and then I might pop into a vintage computer festival and play some, because that always is much better. Yeah, the next one, it depends. Right now, it's I'm in between jobs, still job searching, so I don't think I'll be attending anything until I can get a solid IT position. That's what I'm working on right now. And Brad buys every system he sees. So maybe we'll see your collection. There's so many people on YouTube now that have giant physical collections and they show off everything that they got. And I really enjoy those. I love seeing the physical hardware of what people have collected. So maybe I'll see you, Brad, and you'll show your entire collection for every game you've bought. Oh, there we go. Only buy in person. Okay, good. Yeah. Oh, man. So you must have a really good collection. And yeah, my IT field is IT support, senior systems administration, cloud computing, identity access management, security. I've dabbled and done everything. I got certifications with AWS, Azure, and so I'm an IT nerd and tech in real life, and an old school IT tech at night. Oh, that would be great, Manly, to do a book. If it would break in the money, but right now Chrono doesn't really, it's not paying the bills, so I need to be focusing on getting the next position. I finished a contract that I worked on, and now that contract's done, I need to get something solid. So I'm considering taking another break from the live show next week, maybe the next 2 weeks, because I got to pin down an IT position, but we'll see what happens. There we go. Yeah, Manly. I just recently found the way to play some of the games we played. We were not able to play on the backlog, and we're going to have to go back. I want to go back and play them. A lot of the old arcade cabinets, I found ways to play them. I found simulators that people have made, and I'm going to play them. So I'm probably going to have to go back and say, here's the game again for the third time. Oh, yeah, I'd love to do that, Brad. Rank all the games. I did a little bit of videos where I was ranking some of the games from the 70s that we'd seen. Yeah, and yep, definitely going to be doing books based on everything we've played and seen. And yes, Marshall, that would be really, really fun. I did one presentation, so I would definitely be able to do more, yeah. All right, showtime. Hey, it's Chronologically Gaming, the only channel that's perpetually retro because we're playing every video game in order of release. What, do you expect someone else to play every single video game? Here is your first experience with the first games of December 1982. And we were last on the Atari home computer checking out an arcade game at home, but not the anteater you thought. It was arcade quality. And speaking of arcade quality at home, our very next release takes us to the United Kingdom, and we're going to play Arcade Action. Let's check it out. Here's the box for Arcade Action for the BBC Micro models A and B, and it is a compilation. We got 4 arcade games. Are they going to be arcade quality? Well, we'll see. So here's the box for Arcade Action. This is by Acorn Soft. We've seen Acorn Soft. This is the 13th video game we've seen by this company, and they like to do this. They like to show the screenshot of the game, and I like that too. Way to go, Acorn Soft. What other artwork do we have for Arcade Action? This one is only on the Acorn BBC Micro, the 47th game we've seen on the Beeb so far. Besides the box, we have an example of one of the game's screenshots, and that's about it. All right, let's go to the United Kingdom to play the latest Arcade Action. Acorn Soft in the beginning of December 1982. Take us there. Acorn Soft, Acorn Soft, Acorn Soft. All right, we're going to just check out every single game up to this point. So this is the compilation. This is the 60th video game compilation we've seen so far on Chronologically Gaming, and the 28th compilation we've seen on home computers. So the first one is Invaders. I bet everyone knows what that one's going to be. Let's play Invaders. I'm going to see all of them, and we're going to rate the game based on all this compilation together. Now, this is the only game in the compilation that allows you to play with 2 people, but it's hot seat style, so it doesn't matter. What skill level do you want? Let's crank it up to 9. Go. Yes, it is bare bones Space Invaders, and it's kind of a dumbed down Space Invaders, like very simplistic graphics. It looks like low res. I am playing on the super high fast speed. You have to make sure you use those shields. The best strategy is knock out all the invaders on one side, sneak yourself over, and then knock out the column on the other side, and then work yourself to the middle. And there we go, game over. Let's slow it down a little bit. There we go. Well, it sounds the part. It plays the part. It's simple. It is an arcade game from 1978, and now you're playing it in 1982. So, hey, it works, and Space Invaders is still fun after all this time. All right, so there's Space Invaders. Let's check out the other games. There's not a way to go back to the screen before, like the main screen. Once you get in the game, you have to totally turn the system off and then go back. At least I couldn't find the way to go to each one. So here we go. Let's check out Breakout, an unofficial port. Holy cow, look at all the options. Standard game, double bat, progressive walls, double bat, progressive captive balls, progressive captive, or all options at once. Let's go. All options at once. Yeah, it's Breakout, all right. Look at that. Nice. This is awesome. This is the very first video game we've played that is containing Breakout inside of it itself, like a compilation. So this one is actually a compilation with some good games compiled all together. This one is the 63rd Breakout variant we've seen so far on Chronologically Gaming on all systems, all over the place. And so yeah, it's Breakout. It really needs a paddle. For my knowledge, I don't know if there is one. Ooh. Way too good of music for all the games we've seen up to this point. All right, so that's all I'll show for a quick taste of what Breakout's like on this compilation. Let's keep going and see what let's see what the other games are like. And yeah, James, I did notice that the ball was disappearing a little bit, like something was off. All right, let's play Dodge'ems. It's got to be Dodge'em, right? Yeah, it's got to be. And there you go. Look at that. Enter should speed me up, right? Yes. Oh, so I'm the red car. It is another head-on variant. This is the 25th variant of head-on we've seen so far on all systems. And it looks exactly like I'd expect. Actually, even a little, maybe even more simple than that. Let's speed this up. Yeah. The original let's collect all the dots Pac-Man style game, but don't get smashed by the other cars. And the other game we originally played, Space Invaders, that was the 105th Space Invaders variant we'd seen so far. So this is doing some very good arcade games. To have all in the same compilation is pretty cool. All right, there's a quick taste of Dodgems, which Dodgem was what they called it on the Atari 2600. It's close to an official port, but they actually called the other one Breakout, and it was not associated with Breakout whatsoever. All right, our last game is Snake. We all know what Snake's going to look like. All right, so this one is interesting. Guide the Snake. Weird. The controls are 4 directions. Okay. You want a fast or slow game? I definitely want a slow game. We got Z, X, down, and up. Okay, got it. Z. Well, I went up. What in the world? Yeah, it's not doing relative controls. I actually have to touch the direction I need to go. So if I want to go down, I have to make sure I hit the button to go down, and there's a button to go left or right. So usually when we play a Snake game, we push the button to turn our Snake, you know, right or left. Oh, go up. Oh, nope. So it's using absolute controls for a Snake game. That's a little weird. Usually you are turning it kind of like a relative controls for a Snake game. So it's different, but it's obviously just, it's Snake. So there you go. That's arcade action. All the games in the compilation. A very quick showcase of arcade action. You would have some fun with this. This is an all-right game for all the games you could play on home computers. A compilation of these 4 games would have been, you know, top tier. And we've seen games like this, you know, 1980, 1981 on the Apple II. But here in the United Kingdom, this would be awesome. For us, we've seen everything up to this point. And it's big, but it's not that big. These are games that would have been found only in this compilation. To my knowledge, I don't know if these were released separately and then this compilation came out later. I can't find proof that they had a standalone release. You could only find them in this compilation, and it's the 79th video game where we've seen that, games that are only here in this compilation. So I'll look over in the chat. I have mostly averages, like a 2.5, 3, 2.5, 3. And a 3-star, yeah, mid 3. But I mean, you got to admit, it's working games. They're arcade games. Yeah, since it's all together as a compilation, I would say average as well. Maybe even if you twist my arm, 3.5 stars for all the games up to this point. But I'll say 3 stars. It is fun, average arcade action. If it's only on the Beeb though, this would be 3.5 or 4 easily. All right, after that video game, let's see what our next release is. We're going to be in the United Kingdom even longer on the BBC Micro. This is Asteroid Storm, only on the BBC Micro. This is the 48th video game we've seen so far on this home computer. Let's take a look at the box. Very nice, sci-fi all the way. We're blowing up things in space. It even gives me maybe some Space Invaders vibes here. So this is by Program Power. This is the 30th video game we've seen by this company. They've done 5 games we've seen on the NASCOM so far, Lumberjack, Moon Raider, and games like that. They've done 9 games on the Acorn Atom, like Demon Dungeon, Hyperfire, Warlords, and this one's their 15th video game they've done for the BBC Micro with games like Barrage, Laser Command, and Galactic Commander. And I think we have it back. Yes, we do. It's cassette tape. All these games, or most of these games, were on cassette on home computers. It's cheap, it's easy, and there it is. There's our cassette tape, and most of them explain how to run the game, like it has right here. Thanks, Program Power. They're going to change their name to Micro Power a little bit later. We're really close to when they are officially Micro Power instead of Program Power, or maybe that's their publishing label. All right, so this one is, yeah, just different versions. Let's pop in the cassette and play Asteroid Storm by David Elliott and Elliott Software, released at the beginning of December 1982. Way to go, David. This is the 5th time we've seen David Elliott on the show. He did games like Time Trek and El Dorado Gold. So I'm ready to see what Asteroid Storm's all about. There's our controls. We can go left, right, pause, return, fire, hyperspace. And we can pick between, wait a second, joysticks or keyboard. That's pretty cool on the BBC Micro. And do we want sound? Yes, I want everyone to hear all the sound. And then space to play. Okay, I got the controls. Looks like we got, oh, okay, it's Asteroid. It's a clone of Asteroid because we got hyperspace. There it is. Look at that. All right, so I'm just flying around. Oh, look at that. That's pretty cool. It even is trying to do the wireframe pseudo vector graphics. So it's joystick controlled. I am modifying it so I can play with a joystick, but this actually is responding really well. I got a little bit of slowdown as I move around, but yeah, it is a fun variant of asteroids. And it's a storm of asteroids. All right, let's try our hyperspace. Oh my gosh, look at the hyperspace is just literally jumps me to another spot. Oop, like that. Very quaint. My little pea shooter there, but yeah, smooth, very smooth. We've had to tolerate some really, really terrible asteroid variants. Asteroids are very popular, and to play a game that is running this smoothly is still a nice touch. There's more and more games that are starting to do this where you can feel the pseudo-vector graphics, but it's working great. Whoa! And then it just completely changed color. We are bathed in red. The game's giving me a tan right now. Wow. There we go. And Brad, I saw you mention about the side screen. Video games that did that. And we've seen that originally on games on the Apple II. They're trying to give you that feel of you're playing something with a bezel or something in the arcade. So they're just giving us a high score and then our number of lives over on the side. I wonder why it jumped from blue to red. It totally switched on us. I'm not sure why. So this one's another multi-directional shooter. We classify those as the games that allow you to shoot all over the place. An arcade multi-directional shooter. This is the 145th multi-directional shooter we've played on all systems. This is the 80th multi-directional shooter on home computers. And this one, because it plays with the joystick, that's actually the coolest feature, because there's only 8 games that we've seen so far on the BBC Micro that'll allow you to do a digital joystick. All right, ready? Chrono. Nice, you can put the whole name in. That's so cool. Really, really fun. It controls exactly as you would expect asteroids to control. We have relative control. And right now, the only way to play asteroids officially on any home computer is on the Atari home computer. And official asteroids is available, of course, on the Atari 2600. This is the 48th variant of asteroids that we've played so far on everything. There's 48 variants of asteroids that we've seen. This is the 31st variant of asteroids that we've seen on home computers. And the BBC Micro has one other game of asteroids we played called Meteors. We gave this one 4 stars, and I would say this one, I would give this game the same level of quality for video games as Star Blaster that we saw on the TRS-80 color computer, or Omega Race that we saw on the Commodore 64, Moons of Jupiter on the Commodore VIC-20, Astro Dodge on MS-DOS, or Asteroids in Space for the Apple II. That's kind of what I'm thinking for this one, just because of how smooth it is. It's really nice. Yeah, when you compare this to the asteroids on Atari, I didn't see the UFO. We played for a little bit, but in my other playtest, I didn't see that either. And they do have the high score table, which is another nice touch, too. So there you go. There's a very quick example of what Asteroid Storm is like to play. Of all the games you could play on all home computers, if you want arcade action, you want something like Asteroids, you only got kind of 2 options, you know, right now on the BBC Micro. I wouldn't say it's as high as Meteors, but it's still pretty good. Looking over in the chat, I see mostly 3s. Curtis says if it has UFOs, it'd be 3.5 stars. Mostly averages that are out there. I'll still be kind with this one because of how well it plays and because of the digital joystick control. I'm going to go 3.5 stars. For all the games you could play on all home computers, it's an above average title. It's running very smoothly too. Brian's saying 3.5 there. And then Nebulous is saying 3.5. Yeah, I always tell you the odds. I'm always going to give you the context of what video games are like right now, how many other asteroid games are out there, and how do they compare to Asteroid Storm. All right, after that game, let's see what our next release is. We're still in the United Kingdom playing some video games. Our latest release is Astral Invasion on the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. This one is even more rare. Couldn't find a box for this. All I had for artwork is a few screenshots, and that's it. So let's pop in that cassette and play Astral Invasion. This one is by Astral Software, released in the beginning of December 1982. This one is only available on the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. It is the 148th game we've seen for the Speccy so far. And remember, this computer was released in April, or mail order in April. And some people still, I've heard that they ordered the computer, but they didn't get it near the end of the year, so they may have just got their computer right now, even though we saw some game releases in April. So this is the second time we've seen Astro software. The only other game we've seen was Kamikaze they've done so far. All right, so we see the controls, we got caps, so no controllers, no joysticks, it's all keyboard. Everyone ready? We're playing Astral Invaders, and look, it's Space Invaders. This one feels worse than what we just played in the compilation of the Space Invaders style games. But yeah, I'm not even doing the correct strategy. We got to take care of this column first, get out of the way of these guys, and then we'll go over to this side. The UFO at the top went so fast. I think they are getting faster though. Nice and easy. It almost sounds like the same farting sounds that the Apple II does. How did the Sinclair ZX Spectrum get Apple II sounds? That's pretty cool. Yes, right? That's what it sounds like. Oh man, now I've only seen one other or two other video footage of people playing the game. It was making the same sounds, but you can tell it's not super high quality if you want to play a Space Invaders game. This one is a fixed shooter. This is the 401st fixed shooter that we've seen on Chronologically Gaming, and the 232nd that we've seen on home computers. This is the 13th fixed shooter that we played so far on the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. That was our death. It sounded like a whistle. It is exactly ripping off Space Invaders. This is the 106th variant of Space Invaders we've seen on Chronologically Gaming. We're not stopping Space Invaders anytime soon. And when I say the 106 Space Invaders, I'm not counting Phoenix games. I'm not counting Gorf games. I'm not counting. All those have their own variants. I'm just talking straight up Space Invaders. We've played 106 of them. This is the 6th variant of Space Invaders we've seen so far on the ZX Spectrum. We've already seen good Space Invaders on the ZX Spectrum. This is not. So I'm going to actually get this closer to the worst of the worst that we've seen on the ZX Spectrum. The very worst Space Invaders we've seen so far on the ZX Spectrum was a game called Alien Command. That one was really yikes. Like, I would say even plays worse than this one. Then we had, I would say this one falls next after that game, though. So it's not the worst. It's like second to worst on the ZX Spectrum. After this game, though, I would say a little bit better would be Space Intruders at 2.5 stars. And then we also played Spectral Invaders and Space Raiders and Invaders by Arctic Computing. All of those games, I would say, plays much better than this one. And this is just comparing it to the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. There's so much farting, right? So yeah, not nearly as bad as Alien Command that we've seen so far, but Astral Invasion is still, I'd say, in the bad range. Of all the games you can play on all home computers, you got to admit, this has to go against every other Space Invaders game or arcade game that you can play on lots of other computers. So I got some 1.5s I see from the chat. James says, looks impossible. Manly's throwing out 2 and sends some 2 into stores. So everyone's pretty much in the bad range I see from the live show for all the games you could play. I don't know if I want to go as low as 1.5 because it's playable, but it's difficult, yeah. And it does feel like it's playing too fast, but no, it's not. That's the way the game is. And notice there was no difficulty levels either. You had to play on that difficulty level. So yeah, I'll concede. Most people I got mostly 1.5. So yeah, I'll do 1.5 for all the games you could play on all home computers. I can understand why I couldn't find the artwork for this one. All right, after that game, what's our next release? Yeah, well, let's go to a big one. This is Astro Chase. Astro Chase. If you haven't heard of this one, I'm very excited to show you. This one is on the Atari home computer, originally on the Atari home computer. Now, this box that I'm showing you is not the box you would have seen right now. This is a later box. So Astro Chase is the 428th game we've seen for the Atari home computer. This is the later box when Parker Brothers picks it up in 1983. So have you noticed that as we are nearing the end of 1982, video games are being released, like their first release in 1982, but I'm showing you artwork because they're just recently going to be picked up in 1983 and then released again, usually with another publishing label or another company. So this, I think, is probably the 6th or 7th we've seen in December, that someone else is going to be releasing later in 1983. 1983 is a big year, lots of re-releases. So you can see it looks kind of like the Millennium Falcon on the front, and it has a sci-fi theme, asteroids blowing up. So this is the Parker Brothers box. This is the later box. Shows us the number of players, an example of a really nice screenshot. It's going to dazzle us. Yes, James, and we will see this one ported to lots of different places. All right, so let me show you what you would have seen. This is the box you would have seen sometime in the beginning of December 1982. This is Astro Chase. Fernando Herrera's, look at that, the developer right there on the front of the box. And I like this front of the box a little bit better than Parker Brothers. It's more in kind of what we're doing. There's Earth. We're supposed to be orbiting around Earth. And you can even see in the bottom right, it's the winner of the Atari Star Award. This one has lots going for it. So this is the very first video game we've ever seen by First Star Software. Look out for them. And this is the 3rd time we've seen Fernando Herrera, only because we saw his other game, which was Space Chase, by Swifty Software, and then we saw it also by Atari Program Exchange. So that's the only reason we've seen him more than that. And so here you go. That's a mix of the two boxes. If you flip over the first box you would have seen in December 1982, Astro Chase is the ultimate challenge. Speed, skill, and strategy. They are really showing it off, and they're really showing off the screenshots. And I'm surprised on the back of the box, they're not showing the moneymaker. There's a screenshot that was in magazines that really sold this one. Yeah, I know. They should have that. Parker Brothers should. Yeah, Fernando Herrera, if you don't know who he is, you're going to see a lot more of him too. This is the ad you would have seen from magazines around the time. They are really talking it up. And they're showing off the best screenshots here too. Winning of the Science Fiction Fantasy Game of the Year in 1984, Computer Game of the Month. This one is one of the killer apps of the Atari. So here's the example of the cartridge that you would have played or popped in later in 1983, because this is the Parker Brothers cartridge. And the original, oh, here we go. There's another example of the original box by First Star Software. Perhaps the most graphically magnificent computer game yet created. Now I'm really trying to sell you. We need to get it in the game and play it. You flip it over the back, and there you go. That's showing you more of the screenshots for the game, with some other games we haven't seen yet, by the way, by First Star Software. Look at that, Boulder Dash. That's the one they're most popular for. But we're not going to see that yet. This is the first. So here's the cartridge you would have seen right now in December 1982. This cartridge is the biggest sized cartridge that we've seen so far. It's the very first time, but this one uses 16 kilopower inside of this cartridge. There's other cartridges we've seen that use 16 kilobyte cartridges, but this is the largest sized cartridge so far. No cartridges we've played for video games have gone over 16 kilobytes in storage space. All right, there's the example of the screenshot. Don't get wowed yet. All right, so we have the manual that First Star Software did to tell us about the game. So here it is. There's no escape. How do we play Astro Chase? We have a lot of information and lore. Oh, yes. Eons ago, back in the 23rd century, the Maygard Empire invaded Earth. Our defenses had all but destroyed the Maygardian fleet, forcing the survivors to retreat. And I'll let you read this at your leisure, because if you like lore, you're going to love this. With the force field in place, Megamind slowly closing on us, the enemy has launched awesome attack, squadrons advance wave after wave, and we have to save it. Save the Earth from total destruction by eliminating the Megaminds. That's what our job is. There's 16 ones, and at a different number and type of enemy attack on each of the 34 levels. So this has 34 levels, not too shabby. Your primary objective is destroy all Megaminds, and it requires intense concentration. Of course it does. There's the minimum requirements. You need 32K. And all the accessories. Make sure you have that joystick, Atari VCS joystick plugged in. That's how you load the disc and cassette. We don't need to know how to load those. You would in December 1982. So it explains how to start the game and what options, and we'll see that when we boot the game up. When you play the game, you can use the Start Select an Option button that's on your Atari home computer, and use the joystick to fly the saucer in the direction and fire your lasers. Here's the bonus points and the different attackers that'll come after us. We're going to be destroying them, as well as getting those mines to make sure Earth isn't blown up. We want to save Earth. This is awesome. So the manual already has a great presentation, a little bit of artwork. I love it whenever the manuals at the time show pictures of the characters and even explain, what they are besides just the points. And then they have the enemy offense, the Megamines. That's way zoomed in Megamines. And then there's all our attack fighters. We got Ramatrons, Ramalons, Firetrons, Firelons, Ramatron Jets, Ramalon Jets. This is so sci-fi, and I love it. We also have a force field, galaxy surrounded by an invisible force field. And then there's our defenses. We have our saucer, which we'll be controlling, and we have multiple because that's our lives. Single thrust propulsion. We shoot our lasers using the joystick, and we can activate shields, which I think is simply flying over one of the 8 shield depots. So those are what the shields look like. They last for 10 seconds, kind of like a temporary invulnerability kind of thing. And there's our energy. We have 1,000 supplies of energy. We have blocking, dodging, and ramming. If we have shields on, just ram into those. Oh, we can't eliminate Megamines, though. We can only eliminate all the other enemies. So here's the summary, kind of a reference card for you of everything that you have in the game or everything that's going for you. And as usual, they give us some gaming hints. I miss this. I remember the gaming hints, and when we play games much later, they're going to stop giving hints. So it's really nice that we're still seeing hints on how to play the game. Thanks, Fernando Herrera. And there it is. We have a little map, too. That's really nice. I wonder if that was included as something else, or was it only in the manual? I like that. And then here we go. We got the different modes to play on, and the 34 levels, or 34 difficulty levels. That's pretty nice. Great manual. That wasn't the only one, though. And just in case we don't see this one when it was picked up by Parker Brothers, here is the Parker Brothers manual, and it has almost the same instructions, but you can see they have the Parker Brothers branding and feel to it. They break down everything that you see on the screen. Do they show... I don't think they're showing any... Yeah, they're not showing a lot of artwork. There we go. They show some of the enemies. That's nice. And then there's the Megamines. Special consideration. Do we have help? Strategy? Oh, no. If you want strategies and tips, you need to call into the Parker Brothers helpline. You're out of luck on that one. All right, so we're going to play the first version from 1982. This is Astro Chase. Fernando Herrera, the very first Star Software game at the beginning of December 1982. I am so excited to see this one. Show us the amazing graphics. Yeah, and Nebulous even says it. They're going to make you pay for hints, and yes, they will. Definitely. Ooh, fancy. Shows the award one. Ooh. 1812 Overture. We're walking into it. Let's make it a little bit louder. Hopefully it won't get too loud later. Wow. This, already showing the beginning of the game, you going up, is really nice. You begin the game with this cutscene. Wow, it looks so good. And they didn't have to charge for the music. Yeah, everyone that's keeping track, it's yet another game that's using public domain music, and I think it plays the whole time. In the background, it's a little bit lower back there. So I'm going to go in with changing the option. You can see in the bottom left, I can have how many enemies are chasing us. It starts off on 8, and we don't want 8 to chase. We actually want it's recommended to start with 1, and then the number of mines you can see on the left side. No, I want. Yeah, we'll switch that. You can't switch out the number of mines, and then you start with 3 lives as your saucer. All right, ready and go. So I'm in and able to move my ship all the way around. There is Earth. Your goal is to defend Earth against the mines. So the enemies that fly at you, you can destroy them, at your leisure. But you want to stay around the perimeter of the Earth. Don't stray too far from it, because the mines are in all directions coming at it. There it is. There's one. Blow up some of those mines. But you have 8 different directions to shoot and fire your ship. There's another mine out there. So don't let them come at you. But you saw one of the big difficulties of the game, and that is you have stars that you will get hung up on. You'll get stuck on stars and planets. Everything you see in the background looks amazing. See all the planets in the solar system? Rings around Saturn or Uranus, wherever the planets are? Oh, wait. Oh, mine was... I wasn't defending the top. And now Earth has been destroyed. We blew it up. The whole thing. And as you move around, though, you'll notice that you get stuck on planets, and the solar system isn't very kind to you moving around. All right, let's go in again. Make sure you defend all sides. We have a shield that's right here. Whoa. Shield goes nuts. All right, so, but even so with the shield, I need to make sure I stay near the Earth so the Earth doesn't get blown up by a mine. So my first impression of playing the game is, wow, this does look really good. And I think of all the games in magazines that they put screenshots up, and the screenshots will sell the game. This game, I'm sure, sold lots because of how impressive the game looks, of how much we have going on screen at one time. Let's get these mines. Uh-oh, gotta go south. There's no warning to tell me, oh, they're coming south, or hurry up, blow those up. Come on. Oh, come on. Move past Saturn, why don't you? I don't think it is. There we go, got it. And we have the very quiet tunes of the 1812 Overture playing in the background. Which I've mentioned it before, right now, having a video game that plays the music while you're playing the game is a novelty. Anteater was the other one we just recently played. Yeah, the cannons do sound quiet, though, right? Because they're making the explosions really loud. So fun. So we have this side and that side. All right, we're looking pretty good. One mine left. And this is also what makes it interesting. If I can finish this last one off, there we go. We save the Earth. And then you can move on pressing your red button to go to the next level. And then it progressively gets more and more difficult. So you can see we're now on Chase 2 and defending the Earth. The other thing, too, is it has cutscenes. If you play long enough, after every, I think it's every 4 levels, it has a brief cutscene. Not just lore in the manual. You got a little bit while you're playing the game, too, which is cool. All right, I need to get closer to Earth. What do we got? Another one right there. The other thing I think of when I play it is the games we played that are allowing you to freely move around as shoot-em-ups, because you can increase the difficulty, the chase of how many enemies are chasing you, and this gets pretty hectic. It turns into a shoot 'em up, but to have a shoot 'em up that's freely allowing you to scroll and move around like this is a new idea or concept. Started with most famously Bosconian. Where did he go? He went behind that. I can't even go behind Earth. Look at that. If I if I try to go in, my energy falls down. And then another there. Take out that guy. Yeah, so it's another video game that is doing something not completely new, but it's new enough. You can see I have double shots that I can fire there. The other thing that's interesting is as I'm playing the game, I have to follow. The craft continues to move after I've moved my joystick, so it's not very intuitive, considering we played games that allow you to have just a little bit of gravity or inertia. This feels like I am not really flying through space, because we played some games that try to make it a little more realistic. All right, so this is the 146th multi-directional shooter that we played on Chronologically Gaming, and the 81st that we played on home computers up to this point. Die! This is the 17th that we played on the Atari home computer. And this one does offer the difficulty levels options, which is a nice touch. And the cutscenes is also welcome as something that's a fresh game idea. And it's also letting us go, you know, game to game. Oh, we have 16 mines now. Yikes! Look how look how crammed the galaxy is. And you can't even shoot past the planets now, too. It's gonna get crazier and crazier. This is the very first video game in the Astro Chase series, too. And it is the 6th video game we played that's a variant of Bosconian, or trying to play as a shoot 'em up, allowing you to shoot in all directions. Star Maze on the Apple II was another one. Spider Invasion on the Atari home computer. Survivor that we saw on the Atari home computer. And so there's other games that play close to this that have the 2D scrolling like Bosconian does. We saw Bosconian on the Sword M5 home computer, but they don't play exactly like Bosconian. Like one of them is Snipes on MS-DOS we saw, Time Pilot in the arcade, Astron 9 on the Atari home computer, Satellite Patrol on the Commodore VIC-20, Strategy X that you could have played in the arcades, and Bolo on the Apple II. So later, we're going to see this on the Atari 5200, the Commodore 64, because everything by law has to be ported to the Commodore 64. And this shares the award with Choplifter as being a computer game that gets turned into an arcade game. Choplifter was a little different, though. Choplifter had its own standalone release. This one, when it went to the arcade, was using what Exidy called the Maxiflex arcade, which was essentially an Atari home computer in the arcade. So when you saw this in the arcade, it looked exactly like this. When you played Choplifter in the arcade, it looked, you know, it was really nice. It was redone. But you would play this in the arcade later, and it would just look exactly like this. Really rare arcade. We're going to see that much later. And Earth has been destroyed. All right, so there you go. That's Astro Chase. Visually, it's pretty good. The way that it plays isn't as spot on as some of the other games we've seen up to this point. It does have more going for it than Bosconian on the Sword M5, but as far as the other like multi-directional shoot 'em ups, the content or the way you control the craft isn't as fine-tuned as I would have thought. So I'm looking over the chat. I see lots of 4s from everyone. Looks like 4 from Curtis, Barclay, and James, and then Brad saying 4.5 because he's Atari biased. I am too. It's pretty good. Atari's pretty good. Charlie's saying 4 too, and then Marcel's going 5. Top tier video game. Now, this one is going to be ported on lots of different systems. My first experience and how I've replayed Astro Chase, I actually don't want to call it one of the best games you could play on all home computers. I don't want to bring it to the 4.5 range. I would say this is very good. This is excellent. The way the game's controlled, though, isn't as tight as I would have expected. So I'm actually going to go 4 stars of all the games you could play. And we have other ports later. Like you see this 1983 one by Parker Brothers. Maybe when we play the other ports, it may be a little different, but my first one, I'm going to say very, very good. It's a 4-player game for Astro Chase. All right, that's where we got to put our video game playing on pause. Or if you're playing on the Atari home computer, you can pause anytime you want. And we've seen a few other games that allow you to pause with a few keys and things like that. So next time on Chronologically Gaming, we get into the holiday spirit, poring over the latest issue of Atari Connection magazine. That's it for today, and like I always say, you are the sole defender of the galaxy, and only you can save the world. Hey everybody, thanks for checking out the channel and joining me on my quest to play every single video game in order of release. We'll be streaming live every weekday at 9 p.m. Central, so join us and let us know if we missed any games along the way. This video would not be possible without Launchbox, RetroArch, and MAME. Tell all your friends there's some crazy guy named Chronologically Gaming trying to play every single video game. We have links down below that'll send you to places like our Discord and Patreon, and one that says all the video games we've ever played. If you go there, it's a list of everything, and you can click right to the game you want to see. Chronologically Gaming is the name to look for. We are perpetually retro, and we will catch you next time.